Hey everybody, Karen Bryant here talking with Grant Dawson, who of course is facing Bobby Green in the main event October 7th. Listen, obviously this is a massive deal. Do you feel like it's kind of like about time you got that main event, or do you think it's right on time?
I think it's a little bit of both. I feel
Yeah.
like for the longest time, I haven't really been getting the respect that I deserve. I feel like I'm kind of the really good fighter that nobody knows about in lightweight, and part of that is because I haven't gotten that Tony Ferguson, that Bobby
Hmm.
Green, that veteran name under my belt yet. So I knew that once I did get that type of fight, everything's going to blow up, and it being in the main event is just even more like even a bigger stamp on getting that attention that I think I deserve.
Well, you do deserve it because you've been doing nothing but winning. And I kind of agree with you that I don't want to say that you're the guy that you're not getting the attention you deserve because I think it's building, but I do think you're right in saying that you're the guy that people are like, oh no, he's not somebody yet. Or maybe he's not somebody yet. And then they're like, oh no, actually he is somebody right now.
Yeah, and I feel like that's on the fan side. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm in that weird position where the fans are like, "Who's this guy?" But
Hmm.
all of the fighters are like, "Ah, don't fight that guy." So it's kind of like a
Yeah.
double-edged sword here. But again, I think that a really good performance over Bobby Green in the main event in 2 weeks, I
Hmm.
think that just blows me up and puts me right where I want to be.
So when you look at the matchup with Bobby, what do you make of it though? Because we always talk about him being, unorthodox, and his striking is so interesting, and obviously that's where the bulk of his game is. But he's a veteran that's been around; he can do it all. So what did you make of the actual matchup?
I love the matchup, and it's not just because it's a grappler versus striker
Hmm.
type style. I do think that he's somebody that has enough experience. He's not afraid of me. He doesn't care who I am. He doesn't care about my
Hmm.
record or who I've beat in the past. He's going to come out and he's going to fight me 100% of the time. He's not going to lose to me walking to the cage, which is
Yeah.
what I like. I want him to come fight me. I want him to get in there thinking that he can win this fight. Like I said before, it's a big fight opportunity for me. There's a bunch of pressure on my shoulders to perform into this fight, and I absolutely love that. I love that pressure. Put more on me, I can carry it.
Well, I would say you do put it on yourself because you've never been shy about voicing your confidence. Let's just put it that way. Right out the gate, you've been a really confident guy. So yeah, what do you think it is? Why do you think the fans maybe haven't caught up yet, but all the fighters know? Because you're absolutely right. Like you're too much of the ROI on you for a higher ranked guy is no good. Nobody's looking at you going like easy fight or whatever. So, what do you think it is that the fans haven't just made the connection yet?
I think well, there's two things that go into it. One, it was part of our design, and it might have backfired a little bit because we didn't want to break into the UFC, get all this hype, and all of a sudden I'm fighting top five guys for very little money, because
Yeah.
that doesn't really make sense. Not to mention when I did get into the UFC, I was 25 years old, so having time to grow in the UFC and kind of build myself with my career, I think that was
Hmm.
kind of the plan. The other thing is I there's nothing really about me that is a common fan can latch onto. Like I don't have the Patty Pimblett haircut or
Yeah.
accent. I didn't have abusive parents growing up. I
Right.
didn't have a hard life growing up that a bunch of people can connect to. I had two very loving mother and father who are still together to this day. Like
Hmm.
it's not a big story that you can kind of grab onto. I'm just a kid from a small town that had a big dream, and through hard work and perseverance, now I'm here. And I think it's
Hmm.
going to take a little bit longer for people to really grab onto that, which is fine. I'm 100% okay with that. The
Hmm.
only thing that I worry about is running into a Benil Dariush situation where
Yeah.
I've beaten literally everybody in front of me, and they still don't want to give me a title shot just because there are more popular dudes ahead of me. However, if I want to be the best in the world, I have to be able to beat everybody they put in front of me, and so that is my goal in 2 weeks is to beat Bobby Green.
Yeah, it is tough because you're 100% right. It is a balance of, or it's a combination rather of, deserving the fight just on the merits of your actual skill and ability, but also that the fan popularity and all that does come into it. So, with that said, though, it's a massive opportunity for you to fight Bobby. You know, I'm not sure. Taking the slow path, I think, is really, really smart. But obviously, now that you are in this area where you are in the rankings and everything, like, you know, the path to the top, right? So I feel like for me, you were already doing great when you beat Mark Madsen and took his O. It was like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? And then you just keep beating Ismagulov. You're beating the tougher guys, right? You're beating the grapplers that nobody wants to grapple with. So have you mapped out, though, the next couple fights you would want if you are victorious against Bobby?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, the number one thing is beating Bobby Green, but I come from a wrestling background. We had 4 or 5 matches in one day, so it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't. It's not hard for me to be like, okay, I'm 100% focused on Bobby Green. However, there's a small part of my brain that is like, what is next? What
Yeah.
happens if I have, a good performance, beat him super easily? What do I want after that? What happens if I have a really close fight? Because, I go into this knowing that there's more than just a win and a loss outcome
Mm-hmm.
possibility. I would like to fight Dan Hooker after Bobby Green.
Nice.
However, uh, I believe Dan Hooker said that he would be ready to go in December from his
Okay.
injuries with Jalen Turner. That is a date that I'm absolutely willing to make. I will beat Bobby Green and then make the weight again to fight Dan Hooker. However, I have to beat Bobby Green in a way that proves that I should get a shot against somebody like Dan Hooker.
Well, where's my wallet? Like, take my money. You versus Dan is a great fight. He's always entertaining. Both of you are, and I think that's one thing that if I'm you or your management, that's something I would try to put the messaging out, is that while you may be quote unquote a grappler, you're not a lay and pray guy. You're an exciting grappler, and that's the thing. Like, yeah, and I wanted to actually ask you about last night because you're at ATT, and I know Gamrot's been training there when he's stateside, and he did so great. I think Gamrot is awesome. I'm definitely a fan, and I feel like it's that kind of thing, right? Where it's like, well, sure, Gamrot is a grappler, but look how exciting he is. Look at he's not afraid to throw hands. It's all that. So I feel like that's the kind of branding that you should be working on, right? Because you are way more than just a guy that's gonna try to lay and prey on somebody.
Yeah, and I think that grapplers get that kind of rap
Yeah.
just because we had guys like Khabib show up who had. I don't want to take anything away from Khabib. I think he is the greatest lightweight of all time.
Hmm.
I truly mean that. But if you kind of look at his wins, if you look at the guys where he got off really, really, really incredible ground and pound,
Hmm.
a lot of them were strikers that just didn't really know how to get up off their back. When he fought guys that did know how to get up, his ground and pound went much, much lower because
Yeah.
it's so much harder to hit somebody while they're trying to get up. And
Yeah.
so, I throw in my body triangle, I get the back, and I do as much damage as I possibly can while still fishing for the choke. But
Hmm.
you're not going to have as much devastating ground and pound when you're on somebody's back compared to in their guard and they're not trying to get up. So I do feel like grapplers sometimes get a rough rap because they're not Khabib. They're
Yeah.
anytime there's a good wrestler in the division, they're immediately compared to, well, how would he have done against Khabib? And it's like, guys,
Right.
just because I'm not landing 190 strikes a
Right.
minute on the ground doesn't mean that I'm not hurting people on the ground.
Right. Well, and so I'm curious then if we've got Makhachev at the top of the division right now. So obviously that's a guy, speaking of Gamrot, so because that's one thing Gamrot was like, okay, I think I'm a better wrestler than Israel. I mean Islam, but he actually said he would want to fight Oliveira next because he thought that was exciting. But I am curious, you mean, yeah, when we have somebody like Islam Makhachev at the top of the division, I have to believe that you look at him and be like, bring it on.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
was just talking about Islam a couple of days ago too, and we were saying, like, somebody asked me, "What do you think that you bring against Islam that everybody else doesn't?" And that
Yeah.
is, once I get the takedown, I've banked around. When I
Right.
take people down, they very, very, very rarely get away from me. And we've seen in the past, guys have been able to take Islam down, and when
Hmm.
they get him down, keeping him down is the hard part. But
Yeah.
these guys that have got him down don't have a body triangle like I do, don't have the submission threat that I do, don't have the control on top that I do. In my last fight, in a 15-minute fight, I had 12 minutes and 45 seconds of
Hmm.
control time. So if I get Islam down, it's instantly 1-0 Grant Dawson.
Nice. No, I mean, it would be a heck of a fight. Do you train with Gamrot much? Because that's the thing that's so tough when you get a bunch of sharks in the one tank, and you know that potentially you could end up fighting each other, but at the same time, that's a great person to go with because you guys are at a good level together. So, have you mixed it up with him much?
Yeah, me and Gamrot train all the time.
Yeah.
Anytime he's in, I try to get in with him, sparring, rolling, grappling. He's just a wealth of knowledge, and we
Yeah.
are like two Tasmanian devils just scrambling around on the ground. It's so fun to do. I can only imagine how much fun it is to watch. And it's one of those situations where when him and I go, you can kind of see everybody else like glance over, like, oh,
Yeah.
like, what's going on over there? So I love Gamrot. I'm so happy for him. And I would absolutely love to see him fight somebody like Charles Oliveira, who I actually think he matches up with really,
Yeah.
really well. Obviously, Charles is very dangerous,
Hmm.
but I think Gamrot can take him down multiple times, stay safe, do jujitsu with him, and even get a title shot off of a fight like that. I think that's huge for him.
It would be incredible. I don't know what it is about Gamrot. There's just not only his fighting style, but just he has just such a nice personality. I find him just like really, really likable. And it's not the way you want to see a fight end with Fiziev. Hopefully he recovers quickly. But I thought Gamrot was looking really good.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, the thing that you're like, I can't put my thumb on it. Why do we like
Yeah.
him so much? It's because he's literally willing to fight anybody. There are two guys in the top 15 that have never been called out in their entire lives, and that's Arman Sarukian
Hmm.
and Fiziev. And Gamrot called them both out. He's not
Yeah.
afraid of anybody. And then he comes off of a win over Fiziev. No matter how it ended, he still
Right.
won. And instead of saying like, oh, I want a Chandler who's kind of on his way out. He wants Charles Oliveira next. Like, the dude does not know how to take an easy fight. And I think that's one thing that we as fans love about the guy is he actually truly believes nobody can beat him, which is really crazy. Like, I believe I'm the best in the world, but I always
Yeah.
have that, like, how would I beat this guy? He's like, nah, just go out and fight, man. I love him. I love that dude. He's good people.
I love it too, and I can 100% imagine everybody just kind of laying the gloves down or whatever to see the two of you guys mixing it up in the gym. I bet that's fantastic.
Oh, it's just it's scramble city. Just scramble, 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 scramble. If you are a little out of shape, don't go with that dude.
I bet. I bet. So, I am curious though for you, wasn't it did you get in some heat? You said something to your wife or after the fight or whatever, right? Didn't you? And everybody's like, Grant, wait, what? Did you just call your wife a bit? Like, what? What was obviously is it a running joke or something between the two of you? But a lot of people were kind of really surprised by like that moment.
Yeah, my wife is a fighter herself.
Yeah.
She's tougher than the stone wall behind me. Like she can deal with that kind of stuff. She
Yeah.
was with my manager at the time, and she thought it was absolutely hilarious. She knows I'm joking.
Yeah.
We have this saying at home where we say "I love your bitch ass" all the time, like to each other. Like
Yeah.
she can dish it out just as much as she can take it, and there's the only difference is there isn't a camera on her 24/7,
Right.
like hearing that kind of stuff. So she thought it was hilarious. She knew it was a joke, and she didn't beat me up any worse than she normally does. So it was all good.
Nice, very nice, very nice. Well, before I let you go, I should ask, because we've mentioned a couple of these fights of yours that have been so good so far, but is there one, has there been one that like went perfectly according to plan or the flip side of that, one that absolutely went terribly, but you still pulled off the win? Like, is there one of these fights that kind of stand out to you as one that was either totally perfect or everything went wrong and you still got it done?
I'll tell you. So I'll tell you two stories. I would say the last one went exactly how we thought it was going to go. I mean,
Okay.
against Demir,
Yeah.
to a T, exactly the way I thought that fight was going to go. And walking into that fight, I wish that I had fought Islam Makhachev that night because just the way I felt, I don't think anybody could have beaten me that night. I finally had one of those nights where in the back I wasn't nervous. I was golden pony boy. Like
Hmm.
just
I love
knew
it.
I was going to win that fight. I knew nobody was beating me on that night. I just felt so good. On the flip side of that, when I fought Mark Madsen,
Yep.
I was so sick. I was like, it was the worst I ever felt. I was in the back. I remember at one point I was on the wall and we were just doing a little wrestling drill, and my partner turned his hips just a little bit, and I literally fell right on my face just because I was not. I was walking to the cage thinking that I was going to lose that fight just because I felt so terrible. It was just awful. It was like, okay, how am I going to bounce back from this loss? And then
Yeah.
I went out there, dominated the fight, won the fight, and it kind of showed me like no matter how you feel on that day, I
Hmm.
still have that competitive side in me that will always take over when it's time to go.
Nice. Well, that's a great thing to know about yourself. And also, too, all those years in the wrestling room, right? All of that stuff. Like you guys, even on your worst day, can probably still go a lot further than a lot of people can. I mean, you guys got just live in that uncomfortable world in the wrestling room.
Yeah, and I think that came from wrestling growing up,
Yeah.
where it's like, dude, it doesn't matter how you feel. Like, you have to go do this. You have a
Yeah.
job to do. You said you were going to do it. Now go out and do it. And
Hmm.
I think once you start saying, okay, this is happening, accepting that no matter how I feel, this is happening, I think you start to feel a little bit better, because your body's
Hmm.
like, okay, well, we couldn't talk him out of it. Let's at least do it.
Nice, nice. What do you do for fun? Anything? Are you a gamer? Like I said, my kid's playing a game in the background here. Are you a gamer? What do you do when you're not fighting?
Train.
Train.
I don't really have a whole lot of hobbies.
Uh-huh.
I don't drink. I don't smoke. I eat food. I love
Okay.
food. I mean, oh my
Can you
goodness.
cook too, though? Or
No,
no?
I cannot
Okay.
cook, but my wife can cook. Oh my
Nice.
gosh, she can make anything. She can make a gourmet meal out of dirt.
Nice.
I love her. I love that bitch.
It's a good woman. I was just gonna say, but nice, nice. Well, it's funny though. I do have to laugh because on the show last night with the Gamrot stuff, we ran this one feature, and they were gonna. I guess they were, gonna follow Gamrot around, and they talked to Dan Lambert, for folks who don't know, runs ATT, and because they were like, Gamrot said, oh, they want to film me doing some things other than training, and he's like, you don't do anything other than train. So it sounds like the two of you guys are peas in a pod.
Yeah, I don't think it's hard to be at the gym and not see me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much just training every day, and Sunday is the only day I really got off. We go to church on Sunday, but that's
Yeah.
really about all we do. Maybe a movie every now and then. We're just the one thing I love so much about Elle is she fights too. So like,
Yeah.
she's not like, hey, let's go out, let's do. She was like, no, we just trained today. I'm exhausted. Like, I don't
Right.
want to go out. So
Right.
yeah, two peas in a pod. And it sounds like me and Gamrot are very similar in that aspect.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm working your fight on October 7th, main event against Bobby Green. And I love that you've, taken your time. You didn't rush yourself up there. You've definitely earned it. And everybody knows this is going to be a great fight. So really looking forward to it. Thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
All right, cool. I'll see